Good day, everyone. I want to welcome all of you today to the Virtual World Pulses Conference Day 2021. And we're kicking off the event with our first interview session. And I'm happy to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Murad Al-Kadib, President and Global CEO of HD Food and Ingredients, Inc., and Mr. Watsal Lilani, President of OATA Myanmar, who's going to conduct this session. Mr. Murad is going to share his knowledge and expertise in his field, and I'm sure the session would be interesting and informative for all of you. I would like to pass on the floor now to Mr. Watsal for further proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome both of them for the World Pulses Day 2021.
Anna, thank you very much. Murad, a very warm welcome to you and a real pleasure to have you on this panel discussion. Murad, you've done a lot of, thank you. You've done a lot of pioneering work in Canada as far as developing agriculture is concerned. Can you walk us through the process? I'm sure it must have been very interesting because you would have interacted with a lot of stakeholders such as the government, the farmers, the business community. So we'd like to learn from your experience and see as to what the takeaways could be for a country like Myanmar.
You know, I think that when I look back at 2001 and 2002, when I first began AGT, the Canadian pulse industry was established, but it was certainly transforming and ready for growth. And one of the things that we had to do was we had to develop a vision of where the industry was going, and we had to effectively communicate that vision to the farm level, to governments, and then also to clients around the world. I mean, if I look back at the year 2002, Canada was still viewed as a very, tertiary supplier of commodities like red lentils. We were known at the time only as a green lentil country. And, one where, we drove the green lentils, but beyond that, we only supplied red lentils in very small quantities, and only after Turkey and India were completely, out or finished in the market. Chickpeas, we weren't a player. Dry beans, we weren't a player. And so, the opportunity had to be not only to grow our acres, but to ensure that we grew our acres in the right commodities. I always said very much from the beginning, Vatsal, that a farmer should not grow a commodity because they are able to grow it on the soil that they are blessed to farm. They should grow it because a market will buy it from them at a price that will give them a return for the effort, the inputs, and for a return on their land. And so, part of what we had to do was communicate to farmers that, at 1 million acres of production, green lentils was good. We were the world's kings of green lentils. But if we wanted to be 3 million acres of lentils, we couldn't grow 3 million acres of green because there wasn't enough consumption in the world. I mean, I remember going to, a trade show in the Middle East, and, a buyer came from Iraq and said to us in the booth, "Why did you paint those big red lentils green?" Right? Because he didn't know there was a green lentil. So, the ability to kind of have the farmers grow what they needed to grow in terms of having a market was important. Same thing went with government. We needed government to invest in research, to ensure that the crop varieties, were able to grow in the challenging climate condition that we have here. We had a lot of disease problems in Canada with, only 114 frost-free days per year. We have a very short growing season. And so if we have rain at the wrong time, if we have, frost at the end of the year, we're susceptible to drought here. We only have around 400 millimeters of rain. So all of these things had to be addressed at the same time just to get the critical acreage of the products up. And it reminds me a lot of the current opportunity in Myanmar. I mean, you've had a strong, explosive growth of your production, and you have become quite strong in commodities. I mean, in particular, black gram and mung beans. Myanmar is known as a very high quality, reliable supplier, and part of that is ensuring that your acres are there every year, year after year. Your farmers and agronomy are improving. Your quality standards are improving, and reliability, Vatsal, will end up in a long term creating value for a country like Myanmar and also a country like Canada.
Murad, thank you so much for that. One thing that we talk about whenever we talk about resources for agriculture, we talk about water, we talk about seeds, but one aspect that is completely overlooked is sunshine. Now, Canada has a challenge. You got long winters and perhaps you don't have the kind of sunshine that we have in Myanmar. What would your advice be to a country like Myanmar, which has been blessed with plenty of it?
I think that again, it's about taking a look at the highest value crops that you can grow in the soil condition and the climate condition that you have. I mean, why to grow the exact same commodity that everybody else in the world is fighting for? Why not look at the opportunity to scale those commodities that have strong potential for growth? I'll give you, an example. Last night I was thinking about this interview and mung beans. I mean, we can't grow mung beans in Canada. Australia can grow, but, again, quite volatile in terms of, weather in Australia and their ability to have a very large, reliable crop. Mung beans have, incredible health attributes. When I look at the world, you're not only growing mung beans, for the traditional markets in India and, of course, China had been a traditional consumer, with the noodle and, starch uses of mung beans. But today, when we look at the growth of food ingredients, some of the leading names in the world in the development of alternative proteins are turning to mung beans as a very strong opportunity for an alternative protein. So Beyond Meats, a very big name in the United States, a IPO that IPO'd at $25 a share and went to $250 a share, currently still trading around $115, with a market cap of around $8 billion. Mung beans is one of the main ingredients in the Beyond Meat burger that is being, consumed by North American consumers. So, my advice is that you look at the climate condition and you take a look at the world demand and you look at commodities that you're not going to be tripping over everyone else. And the reason for that is not that you can't compete, but it's all about supply and demand.
Absolutely.
There's a strong amount of demand, but the supply is always exceeding. Myanmar will continue to be, subject to what I would call, the pressures of the commodity ghetto. And, the commodity ghetto is somewhere where you don't want to get caught because, you don't get an adequate return, as you look at the opportunities. Now, this is the challenge for countries like Canada, because we do have such a short growing season that realistically today we can grow peas, we can grow lentils, we can grow faba beans, right? Chickpeas are limited. We can grow them, but it's quite limited. But we can't grow, black matpei. We can't grow mung beans. We can't grow desi chickpeas. From that perspective, we have to find our uses, for the commodities that we're able to grow. Now we're blessed with land and water. You're blessed with land and quite a moderate climate. And so, my advice is diversification for Myanmar. We have to be looking at what else you can be growing on a regular basis. And, I will tell you that niche commodities that become a wider scale can become very profitable. And I think that's an advice for the sector.
Thank you so much. Murad, the other thing is, by default in Myanmar, most of the farming is organic because the application usage of fertilizers is probably one of the lowest in the world. What would you recommend Myanmar to do? Because when you go organic, you have this traceability that you got to institutionalize, put in place, and it's got to be widespread. You got to have the government that understands it. You got to have the farmers that understand what they need to do. What would your advice be in terms of how do you institutionalize this so that a buyer in Japan knows that he's getting full value for what he's paying?
Yeah, I think that, this is a challenge, all over the world. I mean, we're seeing, constant instances around the world where organic certifications are being questioned by the consumer, and consumer confidence in the organic certification system globally is actually quite challenging. Now, I do believe strongly that there's an opportunity for organic production to grow. But I question, Vatsal, whether it will ultimately be, wide scale to a point where, the opportunity is really that big. I actually believe that natural, clean label products that are produced with conventional agriculture, but with an ability to minimize pesticide and herbicide residues, are going to be much more scalable in terms of the global consumer opportunity. And so, what I really recommend is, from a perspective, I mean, organic certifications and organic agriculture is an opportunity that I think, the government should take seriously, in order to convert conventional agriculture, as you say, to organic is very difficult, takes a long time and a big cost. So the fact that you've got a baseline where you're organic, now, it would be a quite strong opportunity to institutionalize that with regulation. You have to ensure that the certifications are airtight, because at the end of the day, it's about winning consumer confidence. And consumer confidence isn't there, in the world. And unfortunately, in our sector, we've had a number of companies that have not been as either careful or ethical. I guess the question is, we're not sure of intention, but organic certifications have been thrown into question by a number of companies that ended up getting caught, either not paying attention or cheating. And so, I think the opportunity for Myanmar is to become the country where organic standards are not only defined, they're institutionalized, they're in regulation, and that an organic certification means something. The other challenge with that, though, Vatsal, is the handling system. Once you end up with a organic and a conventional sector, you have the issue of commingling, you have the issue of the need for segregation. Now, the good thing is container handling allows you to do that. I mean, it's not as big of a challenge as, let's say, GM versus non-GM in bulk handling chains, let's say in soybeans and corn. Those are, going through bulk vessel terminals and things like that are much harder to clean out. So identity preserved, traceable, containerized, organic is a strong opportunity. But I think also don't diminish the opportunity for low pesticide, low herbicide, natural, clean label opportunities for marketing. When I look at mung beans, they're sprouting, they're protein isolates. There's an opportunity in a number of opportunities with mung beans.
Okay, Murad, thank you so much. We are running a little short of time, so I'll go on to my next question. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, usage of drones, satellite imagery, and various such other advances that have taken place in agriculture. Now, in a country like Myanmar, which is blessed with a lot of cost-effective labor, is there a possibility to marry high-end technology with low-cost labor?
I think that it's all about capturing data. And so, from that perspective, what I said earlier about traceability, food safety, certifications, consumer confidence is going to come from digitization. And so, if government in Myanmar is serious about developing the sector where you're going to have that opportunity to certify with blockchain, with a tamper-proof digital proof of residues, you're going to have to go, digital over time. So I think that, the mechanization and the automation of agriculture may be separate from the digitization. Digitization to me is about data collection, analytics, decision support systems on how to manage agronomy. The actual, whether you have labor or machines, is another part of the modernization. So don't confuse modernization with digitization. I think you can actually have, labor, but you can also have digital, and both can interact together.
Okay, thank you so much on that. And my last question to you, Murad, would be, as we start 2021, what would your advice be to the various stakeholders in Myanmar to make a success out of the year?
Well, listen, I think that, we're seeing a transforming agricultural sector where high quality food ingredients, retail markets, those are the opportunity. And it's all about diversification of markets. And, the current image of Myanmar is you are the main supplier, of pulses that are imported to India. So one of the main markets. And, I warn against long-term concentration. We saw what government policies, have done in China to Canada and canola, to Canada in India on tariffs and non-tariff. It is better to have 30 markets than have 2 big markets. And so over time, I think the advice to Myanmar is, look at the opportunities in the products that you're strong in. Black matpei and mung beans are 2 of them. And, I think Europe, North America, the rest of Asia is an opportunity. So, to me, 21 and 22 is about developing markets that for us are outside of India and China. So those are the 2, countries. We know they're giants, and we're going to continue to focus on them, but we're going to focus everywhere else as well. That's my advice to Myanmar.
Thank you so much, Murad, for this wonderful conversation that we've had with you. And we look forward to many more in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Wow, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Murad Al-Kadib and Mr. Watsalilani. This was a very interesting session, and I hope that you, our audience, was enjoying it as much as I did. I would like now to invite all of you just to smash up the like button on our social media platforms for more updates related to this topic, and please stay tuned for our next program. Thank you.